That's what Ayurveda emphasizes on. That's the first thing they fix, the digestive health. When the digestive health is fixed, it has a direct impact on your neurological health, psychosomatic health. Everything is impacted by the gut health. If your gut health is poor, other organs are going to become sluggish, diseased, and weak.
Hey everyone, Derek Hines here. Welcome to the podcast where I'll share with you the patterns, insights, research, and technologies that we use in my own pain and performance practice to help people improve their health, speed their healing, and increase their longevity. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoy it. Good day, my friends. Today on the podcast, I have Dr. Dimple Janga. And Dr. Dimple is a brilliant and passionate gut health specialist who specializes in Ayurvedic medicine and has this incredible passion about providing preventative, natural healing information to everyone and making that accessible. She's a best-selling author. She's the founder of Prana Healthcare, which has helped thousands of patients in over 50 countries. And she really does a great job of blending the natural medicines of ancient kind of Ayurvedic healthcare, where they had to use very natural herbs. And we do get into the early days of healthcare having to go and seek answers from the natural environment, which is what Ayurvedic medicine was. And so she wrote the book, Heal Your Gut, Mind, and Emotions, on not only what things we need to do, but her path to getting there. So she's actually been in the trenches and had to use this information to improve her health when, traditional medicine and testing didn't really give her any results, and has taken that to help a lot of people. I think if you have any interest in functional medicine, in herbal medicine, nutrition, diet, and using that to heal your body from the inside out, this is really going to open up a lot. We talk about timing to eat, what types of things can help heal. We talk about juicing, which I was very interested in. We really go through a lot of information around how do we heal the gut and get our gut health better, and then how we can parlay that into improvements in every area of our life. So really good information in just terms of natural healing and improvements in our lives. So if you haven't heard of Ayurvedic medicine, don't let that deter you. I promise we get into some really good stuff throughout this episode. So without further ado, enjoy this amazing conversation with Dr. Dimple Janga. All right, Dr. Dimple Janga, thanks for joining the Pain and Performance podcast.
Thank you for having me, Dr. Derek.
I greatly appreciate all the information that you put out into the world. I'll tell people, like, from the very outset, if you don't follow Dr. Dimple on social, you're missing out. I've sent quite a few of your posts and little recommendations and guides to friends of mine over the last kind of 2 weeks in doing research for some of this stuff. So first of all, thank you for doing everything that you do and putting all of your story and your information and knowledge out to the world.
Thank you. I'm glad you appreciate it, and I'm glad people find it useful and they're changing their lives. That's what matters.
Right, exactly. So if you were kind of the elevator pitch of Ayurvedic medicine, we've got 30 seconds and somebody's like, oh, well, tell me about what that is. What, if we're going to kind of set some context around some of this stuff, what would you explain Ayurvedic medicine as?
Ayurveda is a 5,000-year-old time-tested science that teaches you how to prevent diseases rather than waiting to get sick. It helps you design your diet and lifestyle based on your unique body composition, based on your genetic factors, the topographic and geographic conditions, the climatic conditions, your lifestyle, your health goals. It allows you to personalize every aspect of your diet, your lifestyle, your sleeping and waking hours, how you can detoxify your body at home or at a clinic, so you can prevent diseases and live a more healthy and more powerful now.
There's a lot to unpack there. So if you're that sounds to me, somebody saying that sounds kind of like an early stage of personalized medicine, where it's not going to be the same across the board. We're going to kind of meet you where you're at and give you recommendations based on one, like your signs and symptoms, but also your history, your beliefs, your genetics. is that where this got started? How was Ayurveda discovered, started, perpetuated?
So, there's a mythological story to it that, when Brahma, the creator of the world, created the world, human life, he also unleashed or created lots of bacteria and parasites and germs in the air that would make us sick. So he created a lot of life, right? This is the evolution of mankind. So with mankind also came diseases, and then men also understood that nature exists in perfect harmony and balance. For every disease, there is a herb, there is a cure. Our job is just to find it. All right. Now, same time, Dhanvantri, which is who's called the god of Ayurveda. Now, we use the titles gods and goddesses because, they've blessed us with whatever. So you can call them scientists in the modern world. Okay.
Yeah.
You could call Albert Einstein a god, 1,000 years from now. Right? You could call Newton God 1,000 years from now. So Dhanvantri, the god of Ayurveda or the father of Ayurveda, appeared to men who were struggling with a lot of diseases with a pot of golden colored liquid. It was actually the Shadagauta Gridam, which is basically 100 washed ghee. Ghee is clarified butter.
Yeah.
When you take that clarified butter and run it around 100 times on a mortar and pestle, okay, and then you keep washing it with water, you're washing away all the residue of hormones or any kind of inedible stuff, and you get this 100 washed ghee, which is equal to nectar. Okay, now it's not going to make you immortal, we're mortal beings. What it does is basically lubricates your GI tract, your gut, your intestines, your colon, and allows smooth evacuation of waste from your body. Once you've eliminated waste from your body, there's no room for diseases, right? So he appeared on the day of Dhanteras, which is, celebrated in India as a day to buy gold and jewelry. But what people have forgotten is that health is wealth. So that's the day of health, not just physical wealth. So what we're discussing is health, right?
Right.
So this is the origin of Ayurveda 5,000 years ago by this scientist or demigod that you might call Dhanvantri. And since then, all the other Ayurvedic doctors, sages and monks who had dedicated their life to becoming a Vaidya, Vaidya means a dedicated doctor, would spend an entire lifetime researching herbs, documenting the cure, and passing it on in the Gurukul form, oral form to their students.
Yeah.
Right? Some of it was written down and captured. Most of it got destroyed during the colonial rule in India. Most of the scriptures and Vedic texts got destroyed. 3,000 years ago, Sushruta, the father of modern surgery, did the first set of surgeries 3,000 years ago. He did a rhinoplasty surgery, correcting the nose. So, cosmetic surgery is not a vanity invented by the West.
That's amazing.
It was actually invented, discovered by Ayurvedic doctors 3,000 years ago. And he did the first rhinoplasty surgery. And then when people came back from war, they were missing limbs or they came with fractured bones or, severe infections. C-section was also performed at that point in time. Babies were taken out of the womb through a surgery. And someone was missing a ear from the war. So they grafted the skin from the cheek to build a ear for this gentleman. They took ants to create stitches. Okay, and they did a series of surgeries. Complex surgeries were performed 3,000 years ago, which has been documented. There is evidence of it that has been found. It's just that in the modern day world, all the surgeries are now conducted in allopathy hospitals, and Ayurvedic doctors have been forbidden from conducting surgeries now.
This, I mean, it has such a probably interesting following where I think people hear of Ayurveda and they think of kind of this history around healthcare and medicine, and at least in the West, a lot of people will probably put it in kind of the like shamanistic type of medicine around here. A lot of people would have thought of kind of like the healers in the American Indian culture. and somewhat just mentally lump those together. And maybe they do have a similar, time frame in how long they were healing. And it's quite interesting to me when we find two very separate like ideologies that come up with similar answers. That always piques my interest. If people come from very far away in different backgrounds, and yet they still come out with very similar, hey, this is what we've found helps. And one of the things I love about like this history is that they didn't really have a dog in the fight, so to speak. They didn't have like this paradigm that they were trying to prove their own thoughts. All they cared about was the outcome. They just cared whether it worked or not. And so if they tried experiments and it didn't work, it wasn't like, oh, you're taking my ideology away. It was like, nope, that one didn't give us the result we wanted. So not that we won't use it in the future, but we won't use it for this. So it was a much more practical form of even like the modern scientific method that they were practicing to discover all of this stuff. It's incredible to me how much information that we're starting to prove now that they were talking about thousands of years ago.
It's amazing how you've actually caught the gist of the science, be it naturopathy, Ayurveda, homeopathy, traditional Chinese medicine, or even the shamanic science or the medicine practiced by the Native Americans back in the day. Look at any ancient science practiced in Greece. You find documented evidence even by the Athens. Socrates spoke about it, right? Da Vinci also spoke about the human form in his art, right? He spoke about how the muscles were built, the bones were built. People in that era did not have telephones or telegrams or email to connect with each other. But somehow that era was the era of discovering humankind, mankind, and how to improve longevity. So everybody was invested in that, and there was no vested interest or bias in their research because they were not funded
Right.
by pharma or FMCG companies to arrive at a predetermined conclusion that, hey, coffee is great for health. But who benefits from that research? Coffee plantations, who make a lot of profit. It's one of the most expensive commodities in the world. And you'll not find a single research report that says that coffee is unhealthy. But coffee withdrawal symptoms are real. The nervous disease
Certainly.
comes from not having caffeine is real, right? But
Right.
nobody wants to talk about it or document it anymore in the form of a research report because that means losses for the FMCG pharma company. So back in the day, there was no vested interest or
Right.
bias. Like you said, no dog in the fight, So the pride was not at stake, nor was a lot of corporate money at stake.
So you have if somebody listened to this, I don't think they would realize what your background is because, like, you listen to your passion behind it, and people are like, "Oh, well, she must have been in this forever." But even before we started recording, we were talking about your kind of travels and your work, traveling from New York to Chicago and doing all that stuff. So I want to get your path to finding this, but I want to read something that you wrote because this grabbed me, and I'd like you to expand on it. So by the age of 18, I had undergone 4 surgeries for fibrocystic benign tumors, inflamed tonsils, and a deviated septum. It was a new record in the family. I remember waking up during one of those surgeries and feeling like I was trapped in my paralyzed body. Um, Tell us about that time and how that led to you finding and kind of gaining your passion for Ayurveda.
I still get gooseflesh when people read out that line to me. I woke up in the middle of my surgery and I couldn't move my body, but I could hear the doctors and nurses talking over my body. I could hear them talking, and the doctor asked, did she wake up? The nurse said, no, she didn't. And I wanted to scream, saying, yes, I'm awake. Yes, I'm awake. Please put me back to sleep. Don't cut me open. Don't do anything. But I have that trauma that has been locked in my deep subconscious mind, right? So this is what happened when I was a child, and I think everything was destiny. When you connect the dots, it all makes sense. I forgot all about it. I went on to become a TV reporter, a TV producer. I was in advertising as well for a brief period of time. I became an investment banker. I was living in New York, working in Chicago. It was a high-rise life, living in expensive hotels and flying business class around the world. It was a globe-trotting lifestyle. I had it all, but deep within, I was just not happy. And it didn't make sense because I had the best wardrobe, money in my bank, this globetrotting lifestyle that everyone was envious of, by social media status, I had the best life. But I was just not happy and I couldn't figure out why. And I packed my bags, left it all in storage. It's been 7 years since that event. Came back to India, left all my things in New York, and I thought, it's going to be a brief stint in India. I'm going to just, take a little rest or break and then go back to the US. That didn't happen. I just went from one project to another project, trying to figure out where I want to put my money and my energy in next. So I went through a series of due diligence for various projects like pharmaceutical packaging industry. There was a cutting tool industry in France, in Rouen. There was hotels, heritage hotels that I wanted to acquire and turn around. And I kept looking for my purpose. So it would take me 2 months per project, to do the due diligence and to see if it's a financial fit, if I want to put my money in this. And on the D day, when I'm supposed to buy the project or give my final answer, I would wake up and ask myself this question: am I going to be excited selling packaging tools or cutting tools around the world? And the answer was no. So I said, okay, I'm not willing to spend the rest of my life doing what I don't enjoy. This was at the age of 33. And then I started touring the countryside in India: Rajasthan, Gujarat, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Karnataka. And a lot of my ailments were beginning to reverse, which I didn't realize. I had chronic insomnia. That reversed. I started sleeping like a baby. I had a terribly poor appetite. I don't know if it was bulimia or anorexia when I was a little girl, but I had a terribly poor appetite. I just couldn't eat. And suddenly I was eating a big meal. I was rising with the sun, setting with the sun, and I was experiencing unconditional happiness. The exact opposite of what I was experiencing at the peak of my career in New York and Chicago. And I couldn't put a word to it at that point in time, but it comes to me now. It's unconditional happiness. It happens when your body is in sync with nature, when your body clock and the circadian rhythm is in balance, when your body is producing enough melatonin for you to fall asleep. It has a great digestion, metabolism, you're eliminating waste, and your body is reversing all damaged tissues, muscles, and nerves. And as a sum of all of that, you're happy.
Yeah.
And that's what I wanted to, bottle up and sell to the world. And thus was born Prana Healthcare Center, my clinic, which is run by a team of doctors and therapists. And I started my research on preventive healthcare life science.
I love it. Yeah, it's such a like you hear those things, and I've had probably 5 or 6 friends that moved from either, and certainly like COVID allowed this. If there's anything that we can point to that said we can say was a good thing, is that certain people were able to get out of these like major centers like New York and California and allowed to still kind of accomplish their goals from a business standpoint, and change their life. I've had multiple friends who were in this kind of major metropolis areas and have gotten back to waking up and, as you said, like being in sync with the world, with the earth, with their cycles, and 100% are like, I feel like a different person. I feel new. I feel a renewed sense of energy. A lot of these kind of chronic conditions, pain, headaches, depression, all have gone away by getting back to going through what I would say is our normal human like programming, in how do we kind of live in sync with the sunrise, the sunset, the earth, growing, finding natural foods. What was the big aha moment for you while you were over there? Was there something like a moment you like woke up and I just feel really good? Was there anything that kind of jumped out and made you, I'm going to commit my life to this, getting people access to this type of feeling?
You don't realize that you found something until you witness the success of it and the validation of it in the society in terms of impact and numbers, right? So I did not know that I'd stumbled upon something powerful, right? You speak about the life in New York and Chicago and big metropolis cities, even Bombay, where I live. It's a rat race. We're always running from pillar to post, from one event to another event, from one meeting to another meeting. And do you realize how time flies very quickly and your life is spent very quickly? If you really want to live a long life, the trick is to slow down everything. Slow down the pace of work, slow down your heart rate, slow down your breath, slow down your thoughts, slow down your reaction to emotions. It doesn't have to be real time. slow down the amount of food you're eating, and instead of trying to run at the gym, how about you sit on one spot on your yoga mat and catch your breath, right?
Yeah.
The minute you decompress, our body is like a sponge. The minute you decompress, you're squeezing out all the toxicity. And when you uncompress again, when you go back to your full potential, you notice you're lighter, you're healthier, you're cleaner. It's like a sponge that you're using while doing the dishes. You decompress and squeeze out all the toxins, all the soap, all the water. And then when you let go, you have a brand new life. The same thing applies to human health. And I did not realize these words until I started talking to you, actually. I was looking for the right words, So I'm going to put it in my next book. So, when I started the clinic, I didn't realize what I was working towards, to be honest. I just knew that I wanted to use natural sciences like Ayurveda, naturopathy, homeopathy, yoga to help people cure the diseases rather than be caught like a hamster in a wheel with Western medicine, unfortunately, which has a lot of side effects. Right? I'm not anti-Western medicine. Western medicine has a role to play in acute conditions, okay? Where the situation is out of control, like an accident, a fracture, a heart attack, a life-saving surgery. You need to do that. But when we start abusing modern science and start applying it for daily lifestyle diseases or chronic diseases that can be resolved by changing your diet and lifestyle, when you start abusing modern science and surgeries, then you're abusing your own body and your lifespan and longevity. So I wanted to replace these acute measures with something that is more sustainable. Looking at the root cause. What is the root cause of your disease? It's your diet, it's the way you're eating, it's your lifestyle, it's the way you're sleeping, the way you're working out, the way you're interacting, the way you're emoting, the way you're reacting. When I understood this is when I started deeper research to be able to help my patients find answers to their questions. They would always ask questions, why me? I eat clean. Why am I sick? Why me? Is it a genetic disorder? Right? So then I started getting the root cause, and I found a lot of similarities between modern science and Ayurveda, where we understood that 90% of the diseases are caused due to an unhealthy colon, leaky gut syndrome, or an unhealthy gut. And I started digging more and more and more. All diseases were triggered by an unhealthy colon, all internal disorders. External disorders like a dengue or a malaria or a jaundice is triggered due to an external factor. A fracture is an external factor. So I said, okay, let's start focusing on this. Then when we started focusing on this, I found so many solutions and remedies were already available. We just needed to plug them together. The problem and the solution had to be brought face to face. And that's how I think I kept finding these little aha moments, which kept building up. And then the book got released. And then when I started getting reviews from my clients in the clinic that the diseases have reversed, thyroid has reversed, multiple sclerosis patients have started walking again, 3 of them. Paralysis patients started talking again. Patients who struggled with IVF multiple times were able to conceive naturally after the treatments, which is basically a detoxification method that we do in the clinic, a panchakarma treatment. And I was like, wow, these are these little aha moments that eventually added up. And every time someone asks me a question, if I dig deep enough and I find the answer, that's an aha, just like how I had one with you right now. It is decompressing, letting go of toxins, detoxification, and connecting back to nature. Those are my aha moments. Every time I find that little connection.
Yeah, that's brilliant. It's interesting because you look at what the last 150 years has been in obviously progressing Western medicine and research and kind of the modern medicine that we're in today. And you look at the health, like just daily health over that time span. And I think it would be hard to argue any other way than it's gotten worse, consistently over that whole time span. I'd love to get your thought on that. But for me, it's because we started looking for these one-off quick fixes where we wanted to we're going to identify the one problem, and that means there's one single solution. And that faulty thinking has kind of gotten us so far off that, you look at the average, certainly the average American, and, the average person is overweight. The average person has high inflammation. They have pre-diabetes. They have some form of anxiety and stress, very close to the average person dealing with some occasional bouts of depression. And we know that 50 to 70% of them are going to have some version of persistent pain in their life. Like we're off base. We need to make some changes.
Absolutely. You know, when it all started was actually, like you rightly said, 150 years ago, right? That was the rise or the birth of the chemical industries in Europe. Chemical industries were being set up. And to boost the sale of these products, pharmaceutical companies started pushing funding towards any science that was taught in English. The colonial rule in India, for example, I know this from the history of India, set aside funds under the English Education Act. Okay, this is pre-independence era, where they set aside funds only for sciences that were taught in English. So traditional native sciences like Ayurveda, naturopathy, homeopathy did not receive any funding for research and development, for publication, for printing of books, for teaching them in schools and colleges. And suddenly it became a lucrative career to study sciences taught in English. And these sciences were basically modern science or allopathy science that promoted the use of Western medicine, pharmaceutical products, to promote the sale of chemicals sold by the chemical industries in Europe. It had a direct relationship. Where did it all become really bad? The domino effect, the negative fall happened when we started replacing all natural things with chemical products,
Yeah.
with chemical replacements. And the antibiotics came in. There was a huge abuse of it. Every time someone got sick, they would be given like 5 days or 10 days of antibiotics, which would kill all the good bacteria and bad bacteria in your body because it doesn't know the difference. And every time you take Western medicine, there's a saying you have to take another set of medicines to recover from the ill effects of English medicines. That is what has happened. And thus happened COVID, where we became antibiotic resistant, where medicines had no impact on us anymore because our body evolved against these medicines. And if anything, COVID was a big wake up call
Yeah.
for most parts of the world who have come to realize that you cannot suppress diseases. They will eventually show up. And those who've been suppressing diseases for the longest with medication will become the first set of victims when there is a pandemic.
Yeah, I agree. I think that that was one of the big things that showed us we're not in a position to stay healthy enough. Our immune systems aren't, our bodies aren't, to take on some of these attacks because there will constantly be something. And the only way, there's not going to be a perfect medicine, there's not going to be a perfect vaccine, there's not going to be any of that stuff. The only way for us to do it is to improve our health from the inside out, which is a lot of what you talk about. So I really like that. I'm gonna parlay this into, you'd mentioned the book, Heal Your Gut, Mind, and Emotions. And I think if people read that, like Heal Your Gut, Mind, and Emotions, that sounds like a lot. Like that sounds almost too good to be true. If we were talking about a pill and you were like, hey, take this pill, it's going to heal your gut. It's going to make your mind better. It's going to, put you in a happier state and give you better emotions. Like the line would be out the door, right? First, thank you for writing that. It's fantastic. But second, how are these all connected? What's the kind of infrastructure, the scaffolding that ties the gut to the mind, to the emotions that come from that?
Well, thank you for reading the book, Dr. Derek. I really appreciate your feedback. This has been my debut book, and I'm already in the process of writing part two of this book. The kind of review, the kind of feedback I've received from people who've changed their lives by addressing the root cause encourages us to research more. The gut is where all diseases begin. Okay? The gut is basically your digestive organs. It's made up of your small, large intestine, your colon. And some scientists say the gut includes everything from the mouth all the way up to the colon. So your mouth,
Yep.
esophagus, stomach, even your liver, pancreas, gallbladder that contribute to the digestion process, your intestines, your colon, and even your appendix. So this is the largest set of organs we're talking about in the human body. And this is the engine of your body. This is a fuel tank of your body. The gut provides fuel or energy or nutrients to all the other critical organs like the brain, heart, liver, kidney, intestine to keep you alive. Without the gut, the rest of the organs wouldn't be able to function, right? So now the primary focus is to fix your digestive health. That's what Ayurveda emphasizes on. That's the first thing they fix, the digestive health. When the digestive health is fixed, it has a direct impact on your neurological health, psychosomatic health, gynecological, gastrointestinal, musculoskeletal, skin health. Everything is impacted by the gut health. If your gut health is poor, other organs are going to become sluggish, diseased, and weak. If you're not eliminating toxins, they will get leaked back into the bloodstream, recirculated back to your critical organs like the heart, brain, liver, kidney, causing a series of issues like blood pressure, cholesterol, fatty liver, undigested toxins depositing in other organs, high creatine levels, high estrogen levels, leading to PCOS, PCOD, high testosterone levels, leading to hirsutism and hair growth, excessively in women. All kinds of uncontrolled growth, including the mutation of cells, which is called cancer.
Yeah.
So, right from constipation to cancer, common cold to clinical depression is triggered due to an unhealthy. So, we understand that the gut is responsible for all physical diseases that we have. Now, the gut is also called the second brain.
Yeah.
It is directly connected to the main brain through a neurosis that sends messages every micromillion second. The vagus nerve is also part of this, right? Now, the vagus nerve is responsible for controlling your digestion, metabolism, deciding how you use up all your energy and calories and nutrients. It plays a very critical role even in your breathing, right?
Right.
When the gut is healthy, the gut doesn't bother the brain. But when the gut is unhealthy, it sends distress signals to the brain every micromillion seconds. So imagine if you had bloating or gas or flatulence, indigestion or constipation, diarrhea, IBS. Would you be able to focus on this meeting or this discussion? No. Your focus is on the gut at all times. You're feeling the discomfort. Okay? That eventually leads to anxiety and stress in the brain. And in the long run, the toxins from the gut, which starts leaking back into the nervous system, the central nervous system, which connects the brain and the gut. When that becomes toxic, it can also trigger other disorders like bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, Parkinson, amnesia, dementia, insomnia. These are the toxins being collected in the brain that prevents the brain from functioning at its best. So your mental health gets compromised. Now, how does your emotional health get compromised? We think emotions come from the heart. But think about it. When you get anxious, scared, excited, happy, nervous, butterflies fluttering in the stomach, where do you feel it? You feel it in the gut, right? You feel it in the gut first, right? When you have an intuition, where does that intuition comes from? To make the right decision in a life-saving moment. Turn left or turn right. It could save your life. Are you going to listen to your heart or your brain? Or a strategist sitting in your brain, which is from Harvard, or extremely passionate, kind person sitting in your heart. You listen to your gut.
Right.
Because intuition truly comes from the gut. How? Scientists have proven that there are more neurons lining your gut walls than there are neurons in the brain. What are neurons? Neurons are basically part of your sensory nervous system that allows you to sense, to feel, to experience. Neurons allow you to experience things. So you have more neurons lining your gut walls than there are neurons in the brain, which is why some scientists have gone one step forward to say the gut is the biggest brain of the body. This is where emotions are stored. This is where 75% of the serotonin is released, the happiness drug. This is where intuition comes from. This is where memories are also triggered. When you remember your grandmother, you start salivating, remembering all the yummy food that she made for you, because that's how you remember her, in the form of experiences, which is stored in your body, and your gut reacts to those experiences by reminding you of how you felt at that point in time.
Yeah.
So the gut is the second brain, or the biggest brain of your body. When you take care of your gut, you're taking care of your mental and emotional health as well.
All right, we're gonna unpack a few things. I'm gonna tell you what I wrote down here. So from what you just went through, to me it sounds like if we were going through this step by step, what everyone should do should, step one, start to improve their gut health.
That's right.
In some way. Then step two are, and these probably would run parallel, but just stick with me for a second. So we got to go through, start putting things in our life that improve our gut health, start doing things that help our body clear out toxins and clear out waste products. And then step three, create kind of the daily life that allows this to remain constant, to remain consistent throughout our interactions with the current environment. Does that would you add to that list? Is there feedback on that?
No, it's absolutely right. You have to have rituals on a daily basis that allows you to enhance your digestion, your metabolism. Are you eliminating toxins on a daily basis the minute you wake up? Are you hydrating? Are you feeding your health or are you feeding your disease?
Yeah.
And have to personalize your diet and lifestyle, because one man's nutrition is another man's poison.
So let's go through that now. Let's get to some tactic stuff for all those listening with it. I hope y'all are kind of staying up with this. I love this conversation. So if we start with step one, what's some of the stuff that somebody listening to this can do to start improving their gut health so they're actually kind of getting the nutrients in their body? They're not creating inflammation. What are like your kind of procedures that they would start working through? What are the foods that they should look at? What shouldn't they look at? Let's dive into some of that stuff around gut health.
See, number one is fix your circadian rhythm. Your body clock has to be in sync with Mother Nature. Now, you see plants, animals, birds, they all respond to the rising of the sun and the setting of the sun, the rising of the moon, and the setting of the moon, right? Their lifestyle is completely dependent on the position of the celestial bodies or the sun, the moon, and also the seasons. The climatic changes has a direct impact on the topographic flora and fauna that you have, right? And every topographic has a flora and fauna that's native to that part. Now, if all of the universe is syncing itself to the cycle of nature, why are we not? What makes us more superior than the rest of the world? Are we more superior than the sun and the moon just because, we've created artificial, lights and we can imitate daylight even in the evening? Does that make us more superior than the sun? No. Without the sun, we wouldn't exist. We wouldn't have the air, the oxygen that we breathe is happening due to the sun's rays. We wouldn't have water. We wouldn't have flora and fauna. We wouldn't have nutrition. We wouldn't have anything.
Yeah.
You have to sync your clock to Mother Nature. Rise with the sun, set with the sun. And the meal should be sized based on the position of the sun. In the morning, it's good to start your day with a small breakfast because your metabolic fire is just about rising. In the afternoon, when the sun is at the peak, your metabolic fire is also at the peak. Have the biggest meal of the day. When the sun is setting, have the smallest meal again, based on the position of the sun. Your metabolic fire is also setting. And stop consuming foods after sunset. Worst come worst, maybe an extra hour after sunset. You can still have your meal, but make sure to stop and give your digestive health a good 12 to 16-hour break. 12 to 16 hours or 18 hours is minimum. Some people give their digestive health 23-hour break. They consume food only for 1 hour during the day between 12 to 1 or 12 to 2.
Yeah.
And when you give your body that complete rest, then the organs are now focusing on what they should do. But when you keep interfering with it, it's not going to work. It's like going to a restaurant and ordering your favorite meal. And then you walk into the kitchen and you keep interfering with what the chef is doing, giving instructions on how to make your pasta or your, risotto. The chef's not going to like it. The chef is going to get so confused and harassed, like a henpecked wife or a henpecked husband, and the chef is going to ruin your dish. The
Right.
same thing happens with your gut. You need to eat your food and give your gut complete control on how it digests food. You're not teaching your heart how to beat every second, right? You're not reminding your heart saying, heart, come on, beat, heart, come on, beat, right? Stop trying to take control of your organs. Allow your organs to be in control. What you need to do is stop interfering with the processes that are happening naturally inside. When you give your gut the complete break, elimination is 100% the next day.
Yeah. I'll tell you, one of the programs that we do for our patients who fall in kind of certain categories is something that we call a reset, which is a 5-day fasting mimicking diet. So it takes them through this quite low calorie for 5 days where they can get into a fasting state and not lose muscle mass. So that's one of, once people pass about 50 to 60 to do a prolonged fast where they're not consuming anything, I would be concerned about them losing muscle mass at that point. So this is a beautiful program. And the one thing that everyone comes back with is we've had multiple patients who are like, after I did a series of these, so they'll do like, once a quarter or a few months in a row where the first 5 days of the month, they'll go through it. Many of them will come back and say, I had indigestion, I had bloating, I had diarrhea, I had uncontrolled hemorrhoids, and after doing that, many of these gut health issues have cleared up. There's probably a lot in there, but one part of that is just giving the body the break so that those areas can heal and repair, and they have the energy to do that instead of constantly trying to play catch up. I know you've mentioned it before, kind of eating is causing diseases and fasting is reversing diseases. But it does go to show like we do need to be conscious of the timing that we're doing these things, and have those moments where we give it a break.
Absolutely. Just like how you need to give yourself some space mentally, you need to give your mental health a break by de-stressing, decompressing. You need to also give your gut health a break on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Just like how you go to sleep for 8 hours a day at night, your gut also needs complete rest. And your liver, which is the largest detoxifying organ, also contributes to the digestion process. But unfortunately, because of the complex foods, the packaged foods, the processed foods, the overcooked foods that we're eating, which is very difficult for the body to break down. Look at a pizza. Look at a burger. It's so complex that they've shown that the digestive enzymes and the saliva and the hydrochloric acid could not dissolve a burger placed in a beaker for almost 3 to 7 days. Right? When we keep eating complex foods like that, the gut is overloaded with this heap of undigested food sitting on it. It's like having garbage accumulated in your kitchen for days together, and you're constantly cooking new food. Your new food is also going to get mixed up with the garbage lying in your kitchen, and it's going to have a terrible odor, not an aroma anymore. That's what is happening. The fresh foods you're eating is getting mixed up with all the undigested foods, the heavy metals, the toxins, the preservatives that can last in your gut as long as the food can last on the shelf. So if it can last for 6 months on the shelf, the preservatives can very well last in your gut also for 6 months. So your fresh foods are also getting mixed up with the undigested foods, which is unhealthy and toxic, and they're releasing diseases. They're putrefying, releasing gases, they're rotting, they become a breeding ground for the worms, for the tapeworms, the larvae, the eggs that are already in our system because of unwashed vegetables. You're literally feeding the disease and creating a breeding ground for more diseases. That's where you need to learn to fast. The power of fasting is probably one of the most underestimated tools for health. We think we need to eat for health. Have you heard about not eating for health? That's probably one of the most powerful tools that you will find extremely beneficial for reversing diseases.
Yeah.
Right from cancer to the fever. In fact, in Ayurveda, we say starve the fever and feed the cold. When a person has fever, we don't give them any food until the person is genuinely hungry, until the person has sweated out the toxins. Once the person breaks into sweat, that's when we give the patient, some food to eat. We starve the fever. What do you do with cancer cells? You starve the cancer cells. There are a lot of cancer patients who have actually said that fasting, even during chemotherapy and radiotherapy, and even during the other cancer therapies that they had to undergo, fasting actually helped them respond to the treatment protocols much better.
Yeah.
And there was a patient who was on a diet of carrot and beetroot juice. This is a recorded, evidence-based, research done on a cancer patient. When she was on a diet exclusively of carrot and beetroot juice, her markers completely changed. And she showed a remarkable improvement and recovery from cancer.
Yeah, we work with a lot, and cancer's always got kind of a each type has its own thing. So anybody listening to this, each case is individualized, but there is good data that shows that healthy cells. One of the big issues is certainly if with modern treatments for it is that we negatively affect healthy cells, but when we go into a fasting state, a lot of the truly healthy cells can kind of go in this low metabolic state where they're not consuming a lot of energy. But cancer cells cannot do that. That's the whole idea of a cancer cell, is that it's going to continuously grow and be metabolically active. That's what we look for. And so those cannot turn that off, and they get more negatively affected by the treatments, which is how, if we do use, kind of fasting during those treatments, that a lot of the data shows the exact same thing. You have faster cell death in cancer cells, and you preserve healthy cells actually better than the people who don't participate in some version of a fasting or fasting mimicking program. It can be a really powerful way of, damaging cancer cells but preserving healthy cells.
Absolutely. In fact, when you are fasting, you're not feeding your cancer cells anymore. Okay. And then the body starts attacking the unhealthy cells for protein and it releases an electron. That's when we ask the patients to also walk barefoot to ground that negative energy back into the ground. That released excess energy in the body is then grounded so that it doesn't cause anxiety or stress in that person. Starving your cancer cells, not giving it unhealthy, toxic, poisonous foods like sugar should be your first go-to, what you call resolution for gut health. If you really want good gut health, stop feeding it poison. Today I had a patient, talking to me about the child's health, and I said, you need to clear out your alcohol cabin in the house. They're like, why? I said, it's called spirit. It's a negative spirit. It's called poison, your choice of poison. Nobody says, what's your choice of nectar? It's a choice of poison. Why would you drink poison when you know it's going to poison you? Whether it's one drop or one glass, poison is poison. So be it alcohol, smoking for no reason, which is true for everybody
Yeah.
who's smoking. They smoke for no reason. Okay? All kinds of addictions, caffeine addiction, which is jump-starting your nervous system, frying your nervous system, drying and dehydrating your colon and your gut, and stripping away the mucus lining, which is a protective layer. Okay? Excess protein intake. People have gone crazy over protein consumption. Protein industry has fed them so much negative information in order to up the sales of protein. But if you actually go to the blue zones where the centenarians live, they consume very little protein. 95% of the diet is plant-based. It's a plant slant that they follow. They have equal amount of carbs and vegetables and very little protein. They do not read labels. They do not go on diets and fads. They don't go on a keto diet or a paleo diet or a GMO diet, a GM diet or something of that sort. They don't do anything of that sort. They eat clean, they eat healthy, and they're in sync with nature, and they have a purpose in life, an ikigai.
Yeah.
And they have a very strong sense of community and a very strong sense or desire to live life and create value for the society.
That is a fantastic wrap up of exactly what that is. We'll clip that one for sure. Okay, before I get too far off track with like the toxin stuff, let's go with get you to add anything to this list. This is what I've got that we're starting with for gut health. Circadian rhythm, like go back and tap into that. Watch the sunrise, watch the sunset, eat roughly an hour after that at the latest, and then kind of shut down. Small breakfast, big, which this is not what anyone over here does, bigger middle of the day meal, and then a small end of the day meal. So that's kind of inverse for a lot of y'all listening to this. Try and get that 12 to 16 hour break in between there. Avoid sugar, avoid packaged processed foods. What did I miss?
Reduce your intake of protein. Don't overdo
Protein.
it.
All right, let's shift gears a little bit because the environment that we live in, even if we do this, we're going to be in contact with toxins, certainly here, and we need a consistent way of being able to detoxify. You talked about liver being our major detoxification organ. What are some of the things that we can do to maximize that? We've already mentioned fasting, which I think despite all these kind of crazy detox things, that's probably the most well-researched and truly scientifically validated way of clearing toxins that are stored in your body. What's some of the stuff that we want to layer on top of that to help your body clear these toxins out?
One is intermittent fasting. The liver gets a proper break to focus on its main role, which is detoxification of the body. When we're eating, the liver's focusing on digesting. So when we go on a 16 to 18-hour intermittent fasting break, or even if you can go on regular fasting, which is just water fasting or dry fasting for 24 to 36 hours, 48 hours, and if you can fast for 72 hours, the immune system completely shuts down and rebuilds a brand new immune system.
Yep.
It can reverse cancer cells. 72-hour fasting is so powerful, so potential. that it can help in any kind of disease recovery process. Okay, that's number one. Number two, you need to also go on fruit fast or juice fast from time to time. Don't overdo this. Lots of people have become addicted to the process of
Yeah.
cleansing. And over cleansing is a bane to good gut health. Over cleansing means you're going to miss out all the good bacteria as well, along with the bad bacteria, and you will not be able to digest food like normal people. Then you'll literally be on a liquid diet for the rest of your life. Don't overdo this. Juicing should be done with a lot of caution. There are only some vegetables that can be juiced. For example, ashgard or the white pumpkin or the ash pumpkin, as you call it, is an excellent juicing remedy for kidney stones, gallbladder stones, parasites, and worms in the body. Then we have carrot and beetroot juice, which is excellent for rebooting the liver and creating new liver enzymes. It also helps in cancer recovery. It helps in blood pressure, cholesterol, and a variety of disorders associated with the liver. Then you have the juice of the banana stem. It's a stem of the banana plant, very potent, very powerful. It helps in reversing heavy obese bodies from obesity. So it basically helps in reversing obesity, weight gain. It aids in weight loss. It aids in detoxification of the lower gut. Very potent and powerful again. Then you also have the juice of celery. You can mix it with cucumber so that it's not too sour for you. Celery has anti-inflammatory properties. It also alkalizes your body. It removes a lot of toxins and heavy metals from your body. Then you have the juice of cilantro or coriander, as we call it in India. You can again mix this with cucumber to give it some bulk, some volume. Excellent for cleansing your kidneys. Banana stem is also great for kidney stones and kidney disorders. And even chronic kidney disorder has been known to be treated with banana stem juice. But again, you want to speak to your doctor before going on juice recipes. Do not juice spinach and kale. It's a rich source of oxalates, which binds with the calcium in your body and creates kidney stones. This is something we've spoken about it repeatedly. You must blanch your spinach in hot water and then make a soup out of it or a curry out of it before you drink it or eat it, because plants don't want to be eaten. Okay, they release gases when they're consumed by human beings. That smell of freshly cut grass is actually a distress signal that the plant has released to warn other plants of a herbivore or a lawnmower or a predator like human beings, like
Yeah.
us, right? So
Yeah.
that distress signal is something that we think is like, amazing. We like the smell of freshly cut grass, but it's actually a distress signal. And when you eat grass, you're going to have indigestion, because unlike cows, you have barely 30 to 40 jaw movements per minute, but cows have 40,000 jaw movements per day. They chew their food for 8 hours, so they can chew leafy greens raw. You can't. So stop juicing your spinach and kale and stop making these deadly smoothies, which mixes yogurt and milk and dates and seeds with fruits and vegetables. You are making a deadly concoction of gut health issues.
Yeah.
Because remember, each food group requires different amount of time for digestion, and it only delays your gastric emptying and can even trigger gastric pyrosis, where the stomach is not able to release the digested food into the gut, and the gut is not able to release the undigested foods or the toxins into the colon. That peristalsis gets affected, the downward movement or the downward wind principle in the body. It's called Vata imbalance in Ayurveda, which leads to a series of gut health issues like indigestion, bloating, gastritis, acid reflux, burning sensation, constipation, diarrhea, IBS. Your gut is gone into havoc. And that means your mental and emotional health is going to follow suit.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's go back to the juicing stuff. You said don't overjuice. What would be, I've never done a juicing program. So what would someone do with that? Is that like a couple of days? How much are they drinking? Like if I'm coming at this completely novel, and I'm picking one of these, I've heard of like the celery and cucumber for kind of toxic help. What would that look like? What's the time frame? How much am I doing during a day?
So, the best time to do juicing is during the spring or the summer season when
Hmm.
the weather is conducive for you to have a cold pressed juice. So, always have a cold pressed juice versus blending it, because, blending or using blades to juice the vegetable cuts the fiber and, causes vegetable bruises, which not necessarily is pleasing. A cold pressed juice has less toxicity in it. and it removes all the fiber. So you don't want the fiber. You want just the juice to cleanse your system, because the fiber is any which way is going to be eliminated by the body,
Yeah.
right? So you don't want to give the body any job. Juicing basically means starting your day with liquids. First, you start your day with 200 ml warm water because you want to ignite and stimulate the metabolic fire, the digestive fire. You want to wake it up slowly. So you always start your day with 200 ml warm water. And then you can have any of your cold pressed juices. Like right now, I'm having, Malta orange with sweet lime mixed. It's called Ganga Jamuna in India. It basically is a rich source of vitamin D and vitamin C. It mimics the sun, right? And tomorrow I'm going to have a carrot and a beetroot juice. When you have cold pressed juices, you can also add a pinch of pepper and some pink salt so you don't catch a cold or a cough. And during the winters, if you're going to have a cold pressed juice, make sure to warm it so it's not going to be cold anymore.
Yeah.
It's a warm pressed juice. Okay. And do 30 ml to 100 ml of the juice, depending upon your capacity, and do it for 3 weeks at a time or up to 6 weeks based on your doctor's diagnosis and prescription. Like we usually tell our patients who have an ectomorph body type to do juicing only for 2 weeks. Those who have a mesomorph body type, we tell them to do juicing for 3 weeks or 4 weeks. And those who are an endomorph, we tell them to go all the way up to 6 to 8 weeks. So depending on your body type, the juicing must be stopped, and you do it only once every few months or once a year. You do not do this every single day, because excess cleansing or over cleansing will cause your gut to also become loose and dry from inside, which you don't want.
Yeah. Are you eating at night whenever somebody's juicing? Like if somebody's doing that for 3 weeks, they start with water, they're doing like kind of juicing, it sounds like kind of like into the day. Is that all they're doing during that time period? They're just juicing?
I know lots of people do just cold press juices for like 2 weeks at a row, right?
Yeah.
That's something that we do when we are trying to eliminate gallbladder stones or kidney stones. So I've had this one patient who's actually from the US, and she did this all by herself, even before meeting us, where she had only apple juice for 7 days with 1 teaspoon apple cider vinegar. That's it, just apple juice to soften the gallbladder stones. And on the 7th day, she ended the day with a glass of water with 1 teaspoon Epsom salt. And then the next day, she had half a cup of grapeseed juice and half a cup of olive oil mixed together. Now, the Epsom salt also caused the gallbladder stones to start moving. And then the next day, the olive oil and the grapefruit juice allowed easy evacuation of the gallbladder stones. She literally evacuated hundreds of gallbladder stones.
Wow.
Now, that's a juicing that is done for a specific health condition. If you do not have such serious health conditions, don't go on just cold pressed juices for days together. I'd recommend that you have fruits all day or cold pressed juices all day, and have at least one solid meal, either in the afternoon or in the evening. And if you're someone who needs 2 meals, go ahead with 2 meals. 3 meals is something that I don't advise. Let your first meal just be cold pressed juices and some fruits and nuts. And then you have 1 big meal for lunch and 1 big meal for early dinner, or maybe a medium meal or a small meal.
Yeah.
If you can go ahead with just 1 meal a day, that's also great. If you're doing a juice fasting or a fruit fasting, I recommend doing it 1 day every week. Set aside Monday for juice fasting and fruit fasting. And you end the day with small amount of protein and carb in the form of a porridge, which we call as mung bean khichdi in India. And even in England, they call it khichdi. Or you can have pancakes, which is made from whole grains. You end your day with 1 solid meal. So when you set aside Monday for fasting, you're basically evacuating all the water retention and bloating from the excess salt and junk and deep fried foods you might have consumed over the weekend.
Yeah.
Monday is a great day to set aside for gut health, and you'll notice your IQ level, your EQ level is all extremely sharp. Your decision-making ability is extremely sharp on the days you're fasting, because your gut, which is the second brain, is contributing to your decision-making process by contributing intuition.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the things that we hear all the time when people get into that, like day 3 of that reset. You mentioned 72 hours. That there's a hard line for people where they feel like their brain is just in like, I feel great. I'm in a good mood. My brain is just firing on all cylinders. I'm thinking clear. I'm remembering names. I'm not getting lost in my thoughts. It's like you feel it. It's a palpable feeling that everything is just working how it should. And I think that is kind of what you're saying. We're not using all this extra energy to fight off things. You've probably got inflammation down, and there's a lot that comes along with that. And your gut is getting into a healthier state and clearing out some of these toxins that, whether we like it or not, that is taking energy from our immune system and causing our body to respond to that. It can't not respond to it.
Absolutely. Your brain is at its fittest best when the gut is empty, when the stomach is empty. The greatest minds thought of the greatest ideas when they were hungry. Stay hungry, stay foolish. I won't say foolish, but stay hungry so you can actually improve your health at a body, mind, and emotion level.
One of the questions I had for you earlier, I've gotten this from a lot of people, and it seems like it happens more as we kind of go through aging, where they say they start to get a lot of indigestion when they're eating like salads and they're eating kind of leafy greens and some of those things. What's your answer to that? What should people who are experiencing that do?
In Ayurveda, we don't recommend raw salads at all. And I am anti-raw food.
Yeah.
The only two foods that can be eaten raw is, of course, your fruits and two vegetables, which is your carrot and cucumber, because you can peel the outer layer and you can chew, chew, chew till it becomes really soft. Besides these two vegetables, none of your vegetables, none of your leafy greens like your baby spinach, your rocket, kale, collard greens, your microgreens should not be eaten raw because, unlike cows, they have only one stomach. Cows, herbivores, have four parts to their stomach. Their rudimentary health is very different.
Yeah.
They chew their food 40,000 times per day, 8 hours a day. That is 60 to 70 jaw movements per minute. And not only that, once the food is digested, they bring back the digested food back into the mouth and chew their food all over again twice. We human beings can't do that. So do
Oh,
not eat raw greens. Cook your greens. The invention of fire by mankind was to promote longevity. Human beings realized they were not able to digest foods, be it animal-based foods or plant-based foods, and they invented fire. They started cooking their foods, pre-digesting it outside the human body so that the human body doesn't have to work too hard to digest, absorb, and assimilate those nutrients. So
so
be wise. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Your ancestors discovered fire and the cooking process for a reason. Do not abandon reason. Do not abandon logic. Do not abandon practicality. Build on what your ancestors have already discovered.
all right. Very good, Dr. Dimple. I have a few questions that some of our listeners shot out to us, and we'll kind of run through a few of these a little bit. I'll do them rapid fire. The answer does not need to be rapid fire. What are her best foods for improving gut bacteria?
Stewed apples, stewed fruits, raw fruits, chew them really well, a bowl of warm soup. These are the best foods.
What about supplements?
I'm not a big fan of supplements. It's like, watering a plant but not giving it enough sunlight. That water is going to become poisonous. You first need to increase your sun exposure, vitamin D absorption, and then you'll be able to absorb all the nutrients and vitamins and minerals you need from the foods you're eating versus artificially consuming it in the form of supplements.
For pain and healing in particular, I think everything that we've said, I'm going to caveat this, like we should still start there. In my thought, if we're trying to help with pain and healing, we've got to reduce inflammation. We've got to get the body into some balance. So I think going back to what we were talking about, improving gut health and toxin release is still the best pathway through it. What would you add to that if somebody is trying to improve their healing, or if they've dealt with some persistent pain issues in the past? Is there some different things that they should do activity-wise? Is there different things they should consume? Obviously, we all know of turmeric or curcumin and how powerful that has been. But what's your thought of improving the healing process with some of this?
In Ayurveda, pain happens due to vata imbalance. Vata is basically air and space element being out of balance in your body. excessive air and space in the body out of the five elements, earth, water, fire, air, and space, leads to dry, rough skin, dry, rough, frizzy hair, dry colon, constipation, diarrhea, IBS symptoms, dryness in the joints and the muscles and nerves, thus increased sensitivity towards pain, right? How do you counteract that dryness? By having a lot of good fat foods in your diet, which is going to be plant-based, easy to digest, easy to eliminate. So you want to keep your digestive health extremely light so that your body can focus on recovery, repair, and resetting your damaged tissues, muscles, and nerves,
What would
right?
some of those foods be?
Oh, there's avocado, there's coconut oil, there's almonds. You can also have some good fat, white rice, red rice, brown rice, black rice. It has enough carbs that also helps with recovery, right? And along with that, I would also recommend that you do a full body oil massage with any of the oils available in your kitchen. Coconut oil, almond oil, castor oil, sesame oil, avocado oil. Take any of these oils and massage your body. You can also take an entire garlic pod, boil it in coconut oil or sesame oil, an entire garlic pod, and then let it set aside, store it in a bottle, warm it lightly whenever you're about to massage your body, apply it on the affected areas twice a day. Your inflammation goes down because garlic has anti inflammatory properties, and the oil literally seeps through the pores and allows the anti inflammatory properties to reach to the affected bones, muscles, and tissues, right? Your skin is the first line of treatment in Ayurveda, especially. Your skin is an extremely porous organ which absorbs everything that you apply on it. That's why I have the rule with skincare, apply it if you can eat it, otherwise don't. Like I look for food-based, vegan, organic, cruelty-free products to apply on my skin, which I can eat and I know it's not going to affect my body, right? The skin literally absorbs everything. So you can actually treat pain through your skin by doing a full body oil massage every single day before taking a warm shower. It literally takes 10 minutes. You should try it too tomorrow and see the improvement in your blood circulation. Do this 7 days in a row. Your pain sensitivity would have dropped 50%. In
E-
some cases, 100%.
Explain so what do you do with the garlic pod again?
You take an entire garlic pod with the
Yeah.
skin and put it in a vessel where you're heating the coconut oil or the sesame oil. Let it boil and then you cool it down, put it in a glass bottle and keep it aside. And just when you're about to massage, take some oil.
Just take the oil from it,
Yeah,
but
take the oil,
the pod stays in there. Okay, I got you.
put it in hot water so it's nice and warm, and then rub it all over your body in circular motions or upward or downward movements that you like. Let it sit for 30 to 60 minutes on your skin. And if you can even sit in indirect sunlight, it'll improve your absorption of UVB rays, the healthy UVB rays that the body synthesizes into vitamin D. And when your vitamin D level goes up, all your other nutrients and vitamins and mineral absorption goes up, and your pain sensitivity will also come down.
Dr. Dimple, this has been fantastic. I've got more notes and I could ask you questions for like hours and hours. So I really I appreciate the time. I appreciate the information. Your book is Heal Your Gut, Mind, and Emotions, and they can find that everywhere. If y'all are listening to this, we'll link to that certainly in the show notes, derekhines.com. And Dr. Dimple, I have to ask you our question. There's so much in here that I'd like to give somebody something to take away. So if somebody's listening to this and they could do one thing today to improve their health, what would that one thing be?
Stop eating after sunset.
You know, what's interesting is we had Dr. Joseph Anton, who is the CEO of El Nutra, one of the major researchers around fasting. And he said the exact same thing. Very, very interesting. Goes back to how we started this whole conversation, where two medically trained, very, scientific, if two people from very different sides come up with the same answer, we should probably pay attention.
Absolutely. I'm telling you, ancestors got it all correct. And it's high time we start listening to what our ancestors did too.
Where can people find you? Where can they follow you? Where can they find out more about prana? Give us the rundown of where people can find all of your information.
So on social media, you can find us by the Instagram or Facebook handle at DRDIMPLE Dr. Dimple Jangda. And we also have a clinic handle, which is at Prana by Dimple. And Our website goes by the same name, www.pranabydimple.com. It's Prana. You can book a consult. You can do a workshop on how to improve your gut health. It's a 3-day workshop. You can do a masterclass with me between 10 to 60 hours on different aspects of your health. You can become a dietitian of your own body, which is what the goal is, that everybody should know how to eat.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And y'all do that's like over Zoom, a lot of those things that like
Everything is
people could do.
online. Yes, it's all digital information. And the goal is to learn how to prevent diseases rather than waiting to get sick. So I think every household should be equipped with this knowledge of preventive healthcare life sciences.
Well, Dr. Dimple, thank you for putting that out there. I agree with you, and I think people listening to quite practical and time tested information that you're putting out there it is only going to make people healthier and at a very least make us question some of the beliefs and some of the thoughts that probably have been holding us back and got us into some of the situations health wise that we're in today. So thank you very much for everything that you're doing. I know you're changing a lot of lives. Much appreciated.
Thank you so much for having me and for creating space for this healthy conversation. I appreciate what you do for your patients, for your clients, and for those who are listening. I hope we all become the healthiest and the kindest version of ourselves.
Love it. Thanks, Dr. Dimple.
Thank you.